Hello and welcome to the final episode of our coverage of Syndey Survivor, the first and only to date that we were ranking down in our countdown of LRG seasons. It came number 4. We've had 4 episodes covering it because we're going to be doing these special long ones for the top 5. And sadly, we're going to have to take a break before we get into what is the top 3, who won the bronze, the gold, and the silver, until after, very excited, our coverage of Canberra Survivor 3, Canberra versus the World ends, and maybe even after that if another season hits our screens before then. So tomorrow night, for those watching, we'll have another ORCA pod, 2 in 1 week. Yes, you can never get enough. My co-hosts in crime, Danny and Jules, will be joining me as we do a draft of the Survivor versus the World contestants. Tune in for that about this time tomorrow, around 9:30 Eastern. 9:30? Yeah, about 9:15 Eastern, maybe. I don't know. You'll see it. You'll see the ads. Come and join us. But for now, we're going to be finishing our coverage on Syndey Survivor. We've got the awards to give out and then to have a chat with Eli about all things Syndey Survivor, about what made him do it, and the experience of putting it together. So without further ado, for the final part of our coverage on the 4th best LRG, I welcome its creator and host, Eli. Welcome.
Hello, sorry, I'm halfway through eating pasta.
Hey, it was clear.
Great introduction.
I couldn't have signposted it more.
That was perfect. No, it's not even very good cooked pasta. Hello, though. It is good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. You've had to rush the pasta. Appreciate you coming on. Excited to get all that. Look, there was a lot of, we got through a lot of questions about production that we were looking to get into this, as well as just everything that made it happen. But before that, we need to do the awards. So, as voted by the fans, as voted by the people that love Australia LRGs, who do you think the fans voted, Eli, as the MVP of the season?
I reckon it would have been Ethan.
Ethan actually came 3rd.
Interesting. Okay.
But they're third, and then there is an equal first.
Equal first. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you do the honors. I'm interested to hear.
All right. So one of them is Sam, which
makes sense.
It depends on your criteria for MVP. Were they the best player or were they the best character? They're different things, but it's subjective. That's true. And the other one was Joseph. People love Joseph.
There you go. That's interesting. I guess Joseph has a little bit of that extra. He's a bit known in the community now.
Mm-hmm. Others receiving votes were Luke, Maddie P, Merlene, and Shane.
There you go.
Okay, so who do you think wins the Annabelle Award for Best Pre-Merge Boot?
I'm going to go with, for that, let's go Merlene. That's my pick.
She came equal second with 2 other people.
There you go. Okay.
So the 2, basically everyone got votes, but JT, TK, and Merlene all scored 4 votes. All scored the same votes. All right. But then Leah was the winner.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Sorry, I forget that she didn't make merch. There you go. That makes sense.
She's such a big character. But basically everyone got votes. So there was a lot of love for all the pre-merges.
It's very good. Even looking back on that cast and who we had who finished pre-merge is crazy to me because on the day I was maybe they weren't the craziest characters or anything, but then you go back and watch the footage and you got Amanda strong arming, John Tan being John Tan. It was just awesome. It was just really, really awesome.
I think they were the crazy characters. They were definitely
right? Exactly. Maybe that's why they were pre-merged.
Normally you want them to stay though because it's interesting, but then it doesn't mean that the rest of the cast was very solid strategically. It's actually the perfect flow for a game, which is perhaps why it ranks so high and why people really rate this cast so highly, because you do have some of the more interesting characters getting a lot of focus on the pre-merge, which can tend to be a bit of a nothing event in terms of votes. And then everyone that's there at the merge is very strategic and strong players, but they're also very good personalities in their own right. They're not just game bots. So you sort of get through the fun bit, through the bit that's generally yada-yada through sometimes, and then into the serious gameplay. Perhaps that's the reason it's so good. The one-time player you'd like to see play again, half of the cast got votes, but one was a clear winner.
Let's go with Ethan, maybe again.
Not Ethan.
TK.
No, TK did get some votes though. So did Ethan.
I don't know. I want to see everyone play again. So this is the tough one for me.
There was just mad
John
love.
Tan.
No, he didn't get a vote actually. Mad love for Joseph in this polling.
There you go again.
Again, yeah, MVP. Want to see him again. A lot of love for Joseph.
That's super interesting. There you go. Maybe Joseph just went on there and voted for himself a million times.
the Survey Monkey will not let you do that unless you're logging changing your ISP or something. I don't think he's that crazy. I think he's just well loved. Maybe he showed the season to all his new friends in the Cayman Islands, and they're like, "Oh, I would fucking vote for Jason."
Yeah, exactly.
No, he plays well. He's a good character. I would probably vote for a Luke or an Ethan in that scenario. But everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Is this season being the fourth best too high, too low, or just right in the rankings?
Too low. No, actually, I would say it's too high, to be honest. But but the storyline was awesome, and the characters were awesome. But production wise, this was fucking done in a couple of months. I had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, just on that, I want to say a big shout out to everyone that did vote, because for Syndey Survivor, it actually means a lot, because considering everything was going against Syndey Survivor and going against me in a sense, and yet it finished top 4. That's awesome for a first season. I feel proud for myself, to be honest. Just the fact that, and of course for Byron as well, is such a big person in all this, but us two, we had no clue what we were doing. On the day there was just so much chaos, and it just kind of worked. Yeah, we lost footage, yeah, we screwed up, which we'll get into some of those production mishaps, but considering it was the first time we'd done anything, we did no trial game, just the way that the cast played, it was just so awesome. It was such a good day. It's just something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And even if Survivor even if in 20 years Survivor just doesn't interest me, this is going to be something that I'll just hold true. The first time we did this, it's such a special memory. So yeah, it's so good that fourth is awesome.
And the majority of people also agreed fourth was correct. People were happy with that ranking.
That's good. I'm happy with that.
Some people said too high, some people said too low, but generally the majority said it was spot on. And look, I like where it's ranked too. I think it definitely deserves to be the highest of the first-time seasons. And that's with no insult to the incredible production that Sam put on for Brisbane, which obviously has a higher production quality in the game making and the filming and the production of the film than this. I don't think we'll be.
Of course, that's yeah. I was blown away by how that was put together.
But I think the cast and the gameplay here, and the fact that it's a full 16, noting Sam's to the 10, really is the thing that sort of I think brings it up. Managing all of that, and how people vote is how they vote. Some people value, look, if you can make a great production, great. But if it's not the most interesting Survivor game, then I'm not that interested. Some people are more focused on the production because that's something that you can control to some extent. But obviously Sam's game was great to see where it ranked as 6. And, I do think this is a well-deserved position to be in the highest ranked first season. And obviously both of you and Sam, when producing these seasons, learned a lot from, watching the other ones that have been made. So, it makes sense that you'd be sort of a few steps ahead of the ones that have been doing it for a couple of years. Speaking of Sam, on a scale of 1 to 11, 1 being the best, where would you rank Sam's game compared to that of the other 10 LRG winners?
Well, okay. Well, I've seen a lot of seasons, but not all of them. That's a hard one. Like, for me personally, I think Sam, like, yeah, it's got to be like top 4, maybe 4th. Let's put it 4th.
Okay, so what I do is I take the, obviously where people rank them, and then I divide it by the number of votes, and then I get a number. So his number has put him in 5.18 out of 11, which puts him 3rd of all the LRG we have done to date. There are still 3 to go, obviously, but the current rankings from bottom to top are Toby from Melbourne 1, who's no one's ever seen this game because it's a 40-minute thing on YouTube. But it was a great game if you go back and watch my interview with him. Nick from Brisbane, then Jake from Melbourne 2, Sally from Backyard 1, Jeremy from Canberra 1, then Sam, and sitting above Sam is Jay from Backyard 2 and Hal from Backyard 3.
Yeah.
Now, that's not my I would probably rank them slightly different, but I think that's a pretty fair
That's
ranking.
awesome that Sam is top 3. He definitely deserved that. There you go.
And now, of course, the all-important ORCA Award. And this has been a running discussion of our coverage of Syndey Survivor, because Syndey Survivor was the first season where we decided to award the ORCA Award. After we should have awarded it for Canberra, but we would have just handed it out to James Wolfe, obviously. But we decided to do a vote between the ORCA committee and determine who should win the ORCA, and it was a landslide for Ethan, so much so that we then named the award the Bromelo Medal, which just works very nicely for those of you that follow any AFL football in the northeastern states. But the crux was he going to win it again? Were the fans going to vote for him? Was the ORCA committee going to vote for him a second time? Do we really want to inflate his ego like that? What do you think, Eli? Has he won it for a second time?
I think so.
Yes, he has. He has won it for a second time. It was a landslide. Once again, Leo was in second, which is the same as last time. And a mix of JT, TK, and Joseph rounding out, and Amanda rounding out some of the lesser votes. But it's well deserved. He's an absolute ORCA, and we love him dearly on this podcast. So he joins the famous ORCAs: Kevin from Melbourne Survival 1, Matt from Backyard 1, Dom from Canberra, Andrew from Backyard 3, Calvin from Melbourne 2, Tyler from Brisbane, Jess from Backyard 2, and now obviously Ethan. 3 to go, obviously, when we get into our coverage of those future seasons sometime in the future. But now we've been criticizing some of the production decisions, and we're keen to get into it, Eli, for you to confirm and clarify some of the hard-hitting questions. Okay. So the first one I want to discuss is Puzzlegate, which was in the real time a controversial issue. So much so that you apologized for it before the finale, which I'd forgotten until I did the rewatch. This, of course, is at Merge in the Pair Destinies twist, and there's a puzzle that has to be done, and clearly the puzzle should go together in a particular way from a color perspective, but Luke just sort of throws the pieces together, and that's confirmed as correct. But Maddie P was actually going and looking at the example, which had the colors in a particular manner, and he was trying to follow the example, which Luke wasn't and didn't, and was given the win. What's your status on this? Is this a production error, or was Maddie P just overcooking the goose?
I feel like a bit of both. Definitely, like, I would say a production error. I think it's more a production oversight, let's say. Like, to my knowledge, we messed up, and that Maddie P should have got that. But in saying that, like, on the day, you see that puzzle, it looks complete. Like, it's just an oversight. I didn't even think twice. And I guess that's like such a learning and for season 2, which obviously like we've now filmed and like there was an error in a challenge, and then we're like, sorry, we got to rectify this, and we did. And I think that was such a lesson from like season 1, being like, okay, we got to rectify this. I don't know if that error will even make the edit, but it is still like a thing where it's like, okay, well, we've got to be 100% sure, and the right thing, if I knew at the time, the right thing would have been, okay, we're gonna have to take that back. Maddie's got it, and that would have been the right thing, which is what happened in season 2. So yeah, I would say like an error, but also wasn't like a deliberate sort of, oh yeah, we've noticed the error, so we'll just let him do it because I've already said yes.
I guess the question depends though, and this is what there seems to be a lack of clarity even amongst the contestants, is I think their view, what they said, and I haven't spoken to Luke about this recently, but I do remember him saying about this when I interviewed him back in the real time, and he said that the instruction to him was not that it had to be completed in any particular manner. So he understood he could throw it together any way he wanted because no one said it had to match the color, and perhaps Maddie P just assumed it had to match the color because that's the way it looked in the example. And that would, to me, make logical sense. But if no one had told you that, then Luke's assumption sort of won in the game, in the challenge sets.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think for that matter, like, well, we I didn't clarify it. So technically Luke's right there, 100%.
Yeah.
But Maddie P's also right. It is kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Like,
what was your intent? Was your intent that they would have to match the color, whether you said it or not?
To be honest, I don't even know at the time, eh? Like, I think for me, it was just like, get the puzzle done. And then I've realized, like, watching the season.
Yeah.
So, I think looking back, I'm sure like I would have sided with Luke and been like, no, it was just the puzzle. Like, just get it in any order. But then that kind of also is stupid because it was like such a simple puzzle anyway.
Continuing on with the Luke being given handed immunity victories, controversies, and Maddie P being screwed, we have the red light, green light situation. Now, I know you weren't saying red light, green light. There was someone that you'd selected. We don't need to name names of whoever was helping you out that day. But they were standing at the bottom there and being quite assertive. When Maddie was coming down, there was a lot of red lights, like a lot. And he got called for being like moving when he was basically a statue. And then when Luke was coming down the hill, it was just like, all right, fine, let's just finish this challenge. And he just rooms it over. What was going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. That was such a fun challenge, but like logistically, never again, please. Like, far out. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if people had a thing against Maddie P that day. Maybe the Survivor gods had a thing. But yeah, that even some of my, like the decisions, like someone's calling like you're out, and I'm going like
yeah.
But like I like their role was to call people out.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna get involved. I'm just gonna commentate, and yeah, it was messy.
Was the red light, green light person facing away from them at least? Sure they weren't looking at them, were they?
From memory, they were looking at them.
Yeah, it's not
silly. Right.
Yeah, if they look away, then it's completely unbiased.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely Maddie P got screwed over again.
All right. So the other controversy, I guess it's all in the one challenge, and there's a bit more fun with this to some extent. Do you accept that the food that you were presenting was not actually gross? It's just stuff people eat.
Well, it's actually interesting you bring this up because I was watching The Amazing Race the other day. For context, I've been so far off the reality TV chain at the moment. I actually did watch the first episode of US Survivor, which is crazy because like I've just been so off Survivor lately, to be honest.
I doubt that episode was bringing you back, but anyway.
Just on like a reality TV like detox, which has been good. I'm slowly starting to get back into it. Really, I actually really enjoyed the first episode of US Survivor. Really enjoying The Amazing Race. Got to watch Hunted, but I was watching this Amazing Race episode, and it was like they were eating chicken feet and chicken head, and I'm going.
Mind, to be fair, I don't mind the chicken feet, but there was a duck.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I think though. Like, it all comes down to like, someone made a really good comment. This is kind of where my point's leading to in the Amazing Race, where they're like, I think it was Ian Thorpe actually, who is, from what I know, a good person. And he was like, I don't see how eating a local cuisine is like meant to be disgusting or like hard to eat. Like it's just like a cultural thing for them. If they eat it like constantly and daily, then like, you know, I guess it comes down to like like ethics a little bit as well. Always been a fan of watching them in US Survivor, but now like I'm watching Modern Survivor, I'm like, oh, no wonder why they don't do them anymore. Like there is some kind of ethical sort of dilemma there. And it's interesting because looking at the food on that day, I was like, I remember like, and this is just like, I'll be completely honest. Like if I walked into the store now, I would not ask this question, but I was like, oh, like what's like some gross food you have?
Okay.
It's like, why the would I ask that? And like, this is like, I'm getting like, you know, sleep paralysis from that. You know, like I am, you know, like, why would you ask that?
It sounds like it's been a very positive learning experience for you.
I think so.
Description.
And don't worry, I love watching those gross eating challenges. But one, the food wasn't gross. Secondly, like, I don't know. There's some thoughts behind them that I'm starting to realize maybe not like the best idea to have these kind of challenges. I'm not totally against it. I enjoy watching them.
There's different ways to do it.
I think so. Even like watching the Amazing Race the other day, I was like, well, hold on, like this is weird to watch. And then that's got me thinking, wait, I just did the same thing like a couple of years ago in Syndey Survivor.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You know, the way to do it, backyard, just mix up a lot of different shit in a blender. You know, milk, avocado,
like that.
Sardines, like just a bunch of gross shit that shouldn't go together.
Right.
So that's a way of doing it without it being in any way like saying one thing to another. I think there's stuff you can find that are universally just gross and that doesn't like impact anyone's particular culture. I did an amateur Amazing Race where I spoke about this previously. I had to eat pressed tongue, and basically it's like cow tongues pressed into a jelly loaf and then sliced.
So that's interesting.
That was texturally horrible.
Well, I had a witchetty grub when I was in So I had a
cricket. Throw witchetty grubs in there because they are a delicacy.
I know. Well, that's the thing. So I had a cricket like a couple days prior in like Cambodia or something. I was like, this was actually really good. Yeah. Like I like this. Maybe not the texture, but like the taste is pretty good. And then I had a witchetty grub a couple days later, being like, well, if I like a cricket, surely I like a witchetty grub. Not for me. Not for me, but I still respect it. And I'm like, well, hold on. I can see why people would like this. And it was just kind of like the novelty for me. I was like, why don't I just try this? Yeah. But like, it is an interesting one for sure.
Canberra also did, I think, the Centurion egg, which is a delicacy, but it just looks so horrible. So they sort of got away with it a bit. No one was criticizing them, but, you know, or the like, I think it was a Centurion egg. It's like this black egg that's been like preserved for like 100 years or something. So it was Centurion egg. It looked pretty, like people were having a tough time eating it. Okay, and so
just a lack of oversight for that one.
And then we go into the one that came up in the recent coverage, and you know perhaps you can shed some light about this. I don't know if you're following this. That the people were divided into their swap tribes based on a number that they'd provided to you before the season was commenced. Yet some people are saying that their number was such that they should have been in the alternate tribe. Is there?
I can back this up 100%. Whoever wants the evidence, I am 100% happy to give it to you. Okay, say that on record.
Danny's
cross my heart.
Danny's interested in this. Well, I was postulating, and this may be incorrect or correct, that you actually did the numbers, but then like lined up the tribes like blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. So they ended up with an equal split on each tribe.
So what I did was at this point in the game, and this was always a plan, is whoever had been eliminated would be taken off those lists. So just say John Tan had, the third lowest number. So he would be removed, and then that would shift everyone up. And that is how it worked. So then it ended up being the 6 lowest numbers who were still left in the game. I think it was 6. I can't remember. Maybe it was more. And then the next would make up the other tribe.
We might need to
so I will not have that defamation.
You might need to post your receipts. You might need to post your receipts in that one.
Anyone that wants to see those receipts, I am happy to provide. I actually had it down in a Google Doc as well. So
all right, let's post the receipts on that.
Take a little screenshot of that just to back that up. That's so interesting that people think, I don't know, like how would that, I don't know. Anyway, interesting.
Well, I think it's a factor of people are a bit Daddy's here. She wants the receipts. Daddy's particularly focused on this issue.
Okay, interesting.
She just thinks her number should have placed it somewhere else. But it was just, I think, a factor of also that, it gets you a very nice 4-3-4-3, which is fantastic from a production point of view.
That was awesome, but that was not planned.
just like in the pair destinies, where everyone ended up with like their bestie, which no one is saying was
again that was pulling out of a bloody hat.
Yeah. No one was saying that was rigged, but what an outcome!
Like
talk about pair destinies. There's been a lot of chat about that, just generally. I'm a fan. I'm on the record as saying I'm a fan. I understand why he did it. Because it's good from a time point of view, particularly when you have a returnee. It was just done in Survivor South Africa. It's a harsh twist. There's no doubt about that. Is it something that you look back on and thinking it was a good idea? Do you think that maybe it could have been done differently? Are you because it was controversial, obviously, on the day and in the watch.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like a lot of people think that like I am the one that like always comes up with like the sort of controversial ideas like in production, but it's not. Like Byron did like a lot of those, and like I was like, no, we can't do that. And he was like, yeah, we're doing it. And then I was like, okay, let's do it. And then looking back, he was right. I actually loved it. I think it was awesome. I think it made the season stand out, and it was like an important twist. It made the game so crazy and chaotic. Would I do it again? Probably not. But I think for a first season where you got to make up for, the really amateur production, like short crew levels, 1-day game, you've got to really nail these twists, and you've got to be bold and, really put something out there that's just, next level. And I think we did that, and looking back on it, I have no regrets of it whatsoever. I think even season 2, there was like instances like that without like spoiling it that I was like, not sure on this one. And then when it came to fruition, I was like, whether it worked or not, I think like the twist is really cool and it's memorable. Like everyone talks about it. No one had done it. So yeah, I think it was a good idea. Like at the time, hated it, but I think it's good.
Zero regrets. Zero. Maybe a legacy advantage that could have been played at
my only regret is that there was too many things in that game, but that was out of my control. If like, let's say this is a cast of like 24, which will never happen. Right. But like introducing it in that game at some point would be awesome. But I'm not blessed with $1 million.
No one can do those ones. I think we said at the time, the legacy advantage probably shouldn't have been playable at that vote because you're always going to play it at that vote. Like unless you burned it earlier. Yeah. Like it's just.
And again, I think that was just an oversight. Like we should have known that, but like it just didn't click that there would be other things. And you know what? It did make it fun though. I mean, it was poor. It sucked for the other two, but it was awesome.
It's like. Yeah, and it does make it very entertaining, a great merge, and that's what you're wanting from production. When I was involved in organising Melbourne 4, we were very careful about all the different sort of twists or advantages that might be in the game and how they're released, when they're released, and then when they can be played to, and how that might interact with other things. And there was a lot of discussion between myself and John and JP and Vince about all the interaction of all these different potential things and the potential unintended consequences that could eventuate. And, you get an idea in your head, like, that's a great idea, let's do it. So, and you do sometimes need to be having these long discussions about someone that's going, well, what about though if X and then Y and then Z happens? Now what's happened? And it's like, okay, well, we need to make it that it does this and not that or what have you. And, these are not the conversations you're having when you're making your first LRG with a skeleton.
No. Yeah. But also, to that point, CK, go hard or go home, right? Like, there's definitely things coming up in season 2 that I was like, that's crazy. Let's do it. You know,
Yeah.
like, and I like
Make it
that.
interesting. Make it interesting.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And you know, in the end of the day, it's either a 2-day game, or most of these are 2-day games, or maybe a 3-day game now. If you get screwed over by some random twist, it's not the end of the world. You didn't go out there to an island and leave your job and your family and whatever. Like, you know, you came for fun. Some random twist happened, and most people handle getting screwed, like eliminated by some
That's
random
right.
twist, better than like being booted out by people they thought they trusted. Because, like, what could you do? You know?
Yeah, I always like try and put myself in their shoes. And to be honest, I would probably be very salty, but I feel like I'd be salty if I got voted out anyway.
Yeah, and at least
and that's why I was so hesitant. And then I was like, you know what? Like, it was. I actually found the voting someone out from the other tribe more controversial.
Yeah.
Where Merlene and Jazz got screwed over. That to
Like,
me
you know,
was
that's
like,
not an interesting
I don't know
twist.
if we can do this, but it again, like the reception that I got, everyone was like, that was awesome. And then Merlene loved it from memory. Like, it was like, well, hold on, like sometimes you just gotta take a breath and just realize you're right. Like, we're not playing for $1 million. Like, this is a fun game. And you know, like if we, you know, if you upset one or two people, you know, not rocking the apple cart too much. It's just a game at the end of the day.
I actually think that, no, from all the people I've spoken to, most people are pretty fine with that, like the double vote. It's conceptually very unusual and I think hard to get right. But again, it's another one of these things, just like the paired destinies twist, where sort of like the ends justifies the means, and the sort of really interesting vote where Jazz and Merlene go out. That the blue and reds on the new blue join together and unite, except for Shane, who does his own thing. You've got Ethan saving Maddie, and then just sitting there with immunity and calling Shane out. Like, it's all, and Kristie just running rings around her whole tribe to get their outcome. It's such great TV and such great gameplay that would not be there without that twist. Without that twist, maybe Red goes to tribal again, and then it's just Kristie like being the kingmaker between the two pairs, and that's just boring, like, comparatively.
I know, and I think you just got to take those risks, eh? In saying that, I am like a big hater of this new era Survivor. Like, I have found some seasons like good-ish, but like the short game and the hourglass, which obviously isn't part of it, and like these are big risks, which I am very, very critical of. But I think if you can pull it off and it works, then it's cool. But I think the difference between this and like a proper Survivor is you're not playing for $1 million. You know, I know a lot of people don't like Syndey, but like she was screwed over. Who was the other one that got screwed over by Hourglass? Like, these are people that I'm just like, I'm such big fans of you because you really, like, it was just an unfair twist for me. And I think that like the main takeaway I got from it all was that it is just an LRG, right? A lot of people just want that experience of playing. And so, you know, it's not the end of the world. You can do stuff like this. And it actually, like, without giving anything away, like that actual double vote sort of like, and a lot of, well, I think all of our twists, like for season 2, I could kind of extend on them or like reshape them. So like it was fresh new twist, but like the original thinking was from just doing like stuff in season 1. How can we be more creative? And as I said, that's not giving anything away. It's more just like, how can we do this again with that same effect? It might not work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the thing is, we did it the first time. It's a proven concept. We know that people aren't going to get too, you know, shitty about it.
I'm not
well, screw them.
Yeah, and look, I'm actually pretty. I'm not a hater on all the new weird advantages and treasure hunts that Survivor New Era has. I actually don't mind that stuff. I just feel that the problem with New Era Survivor is the characters are all generic and the show's lost its magic. It just doesn't.
Okay. We could talk about that for hours because I'm sorry, Jeff Probst, no, we're not going to cast villains anymore. It's like, dude, you need villains. Like, stop. Like, I get the whole, you know, they're just casting like archetypes now. Like, how many times have we seen Carson play now?
Yeah, it's
Like,
all the same.
I swear I've watched Carson play 5 times. I don't want to see another Carson. Like, it's the same archetypes.
I'm being a bit old man here, and we'll move off the new era Survivor session. But it's like everything these days, everything's disposable. Everything's made to be consumed and then forgotten about. And I put music in that category too. I'm an old school music person, and I feel like in the old days, I'm talking about like the 2000s at the very latest. So not that old days, but people like would put a lot of thought into an album and curating a message or a story with it. Whereas nowadays, people release a song, they don't really worry about if it's on an album, it's a big hit, it's consumed, everyone loves it, and then everyone forgets about it. And you don't get these songs that are like lasting, in 20 years time people are still listening to them. I just think that's the way things are produced now and then consumed. And I feel we live in a very disposable world in this way, in so many ways. And I feel like this new era Survivor is very disposable. You forget about it as soon as it's done.
Very true. I agree.
Talking about the casting here, and we've talked a little bit about the cast already. The cast is phenomenal. It's phenomenal on its own 2 feet, but especially phenomenal when people were applying or being part of an unknown product, an unknown host, an unknown organization. You look back at some of all the other contenders for the first seasons. Liz's first season is barely an LRG that's known. It was sort of something she was putting together for her birthday, and they're all people that she loosely knows. Backyard 1 is filled with people that just Brian and Kyle know. Brisbane obviously was the concept that there were people that Sam knew and or knew each other. Canberra 1 probably has the biggest mix of perhaps some fresh faces, but again, Dan and Liv knew a lot of them, or they were recruiting them from other LRGs or people they knew in the community. How did you get such a diverse, interesting, and fresh cast without basically being sight unseen?
Interesting. Yeah, like it was a lot. Probably put the most amount of time like preparing into casting, to be honest. Put out like early expressions of interest, then put out like a proper one. Interviewed a lot of people, and then I think as well it was just a lot of luck. Like I also have like a lot of friends who want to play, and like I'm sort of like I knew of some of the casts, like know Leah quite well, know John quite well, but like not like to a level where like I knew of these people.
They played orgs that you had run. Correct?
Yeah, and I just knew what they were like in those orgs. And then I had like other friends who were like, I want to play, and like family members, I'm like, I want to play, and I'm like, no, it's not gonna happen. Like, or it will maybe, but for now, like I just want to like really stand out, have an impression, and and I kind of, to be fair, like have like a little bit of drip feeding in terms of like, okay, like maybe like season 2, one of my friends, I think a couple of my friends played, but like it wasn't because I picked them. It was actually okay, we've got a full casting team, pick the best, and then they just happened to come out on top. And I think that's how I've always seen it, as like, yeah, like as much as I would love to watch my friends play, and maybe I have that little bias like towards them, and same with family, it's like no, like for the best product you have to pick the best people. And I think that I was just like posting on Facebook groups, putting it out there. And
how many people did you interview? Or
out of the cast of like 16, it was probably like 30 odd, maybe. Maybe slightly more. I don't know. We had probably like from memory like 60 or 70 people actually like fill out the thing.
Yeah, just I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah, and then again, like a lot of those people were like friends and family and stuff, and and then it was very interesting because we just had like a couple people pull out. Lucky had like reserves and stuff, and one like pulled out the day before because their grandmother died, which was like pretty horrible circumstances. And then I was like,
did Shane jump in for that one? Is that right?
Yeah, and that was just wild. Like I just gave him a call and I was like, dude, like, are you free tomorrow?
Did
like,
you know Shane? Was Shane a friend?
I did not know Shane. It turns out my mum had met him before.
So
my
he
mum's-
applied but didn't make it on?
Yeah, my mum's also a massage therapist. Like just the interview he gave was like a nothing. Like,
Yeah.
Which was great though, because like in casting season 2, I was like, we need to find someone exactly like that or similar, just to have that archetype. And like it was just like so good to just like find that and just be like, let's just like find someone that knows nothing about Survivor. And yeah, I think just like his interview was like very bland. He kind of came off very reserved. And then like, yeah, just now I'm really good friends with Shane. Like he's one of the closest like friends I have like from the cast, to be honest. Like he's just a genuinely really funny guy, nothing like he was like in the show. And he's just like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, man, like we know. Like,
and tell us as well, obviously, you know, we haven't mentioned it. We're managed to get 40 minutes into without mentioning it. The coup of getting the winner of Australian Survivor 1 to appear on an LRG. Now, she said in the interview, I always understood, and this was perhaps mistaken, that she had, you know, wanted to just do it and she applied. But speaking to her last week, it was more that she was just interested in the whole thing and was just reaching out, because she's also got business where she helps people try to get onto Survivor. She thought there was opportunities, obviously, for that as well, but also just seeing what it was all about. And she made contact with you originally about that, and then you encouraged her, I assume strongly, to play the game. Is that how it went about?
Yeah, I think so. So she filled out like a contestant profile. I was like, there's no way this is her. So I like reached out.
Yes, because she couldn't figure out how to contact you, so she just did that.
Yeah, so she reached out, and I was like, "Is this legit?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Well, hold that thought. Like, we definitely would love to get you involved in one capacity or another. I'd love you to play personally." And then she was like, "I don't want to take someone else's spot." Blah blah blah. I had the conversation with the guys, and there was, I think, 4 of us, and I think 3 out of the 4 of us said, like, we need to just put her on. Like, that's such a big thing to have for your LRG. And I was such a driver of that. And like, I do understand like taking someone else's spot, but for context, it was actually very convenient because we had someone, I can't even remember who now, but they dropped out like literally that day that she'd like filled the application. We can just like put her through. And Kristie was so worried about taking someone else's spot. I'm like, no.
Yeah, she said that in the interview that you told her someone dropped out, and I was like, yeah, whatever. He told you that, like, and there's probably other alternates as well. But you know, you went straight there because
of course. But it was like it was a legit thing. Like I'm not like I wasn't bullshitting. Like it happened. It just didn't like
Yeah.
And I God bless her for like actually not wanting to take someone else's spot. Like good on her. I think there was maybe a bit of selfishness, but like you know what? Like it was great. I introduced her to a bunch of people. Like I think it was all in all win-win for everyone.
Bear, who I assume you can tell me who this is, said she was very interested and she asked them about LRGs, so they got her to talk to you.
I don't even know who this is, but there you go.
Interesting. Tell us who you are, Bear. I think you're exactly right. Like there may have been a little bit of like let's do what we can to get her on. She might have been taking someone's spot. It's Michelle, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Michelle. I don't know why she's Bear. Oh, because she's watching on YouTube. Yes, you can watch this on YouTube as well if you've discovered. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, that's right. Michelle mentioned that in the tea party and then like Michelle was like then they realized each other was going to be on it before it aired.
That's right.
Like she did take someone's spot or whatever. Who cares? Like the other 15 had such an amazing experience because she was there. It raised the profile of your LRG like into the stratosphere from moment one. It got probably people interested in LRGs that knew nothing about it just from her like presence and promotion of it. And she in her own self has made all these great friends that she's mentioned when we spoke to her last week. So as you say, very much a win-win-win for everyone. And you know, what an amazing outcome for you.
I'll add an additional win. The person that would have replaced her ended up playing season 2. So there you go.
So yeah, they didn't miss out.
So they didn't miss out. They ended up being cast for season 2, and yeah, it was, you know. So there you go.
And it's such a feather in your cap and the cap of Syndey Survivor to have achieved that. I was blown away. Like, we used to talk about that in the sort of Melbourne Survivor 4 production meetings of whether we could get, you know, someone to come down and give a reward or something, or like, you know, similar, do the like winner's guide, like, you know, how Cochrane did with Debbie on that season as like a reward, you know, something like that. And, you know, they were like, oh, well, Canberra already did something a bit like that with Connor. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we don't need to copy that. And then you meanwhile got Kristie to play. It was like unbelievable. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think we opened up the stratosphere there a little bit too. Like,
yeah, maybe someone else will play from Australian Survivor. I don't know. But I don't think we want too many of them jumping in and taking the spots, like literally. But
no, I agree. Like, I don't know. That was my big concern, actually. Yeah. I was like, yeah, look, this is our thing. Like, you can do it, but just know who did it first, bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
you want an avalanche of it. You want it like sporadic and occasional, but it's still great. You've talked a lot about what you've moved on to season 2. You announced the concept, and I don't want to eat spoilers about the season, but you announced the concept at the end of 1, or you gave a little hint with the birds, and then announced it more recently. I love it, and you built it up a bit. You built it up a lot at the end of the season 1. You said it's never been done before. It's, you know, a radical idea, and it's true. And I'm like, man, he's building this up. And then when you revealed what it was, the extroverts versus the introverts, I was like, that's actually a fantastic theme, and it has never been done before. Was that something you came up with? You something workshop with your team?
Yeah, I came up with it when I ran an org, and those org days are long gone. But I did introverts versus extroverts versus free spirits for the second season of my org, and it was like, it's the fun, like, we had a lot of fun with that, like, when we ran that org, and a lot of fun memories. And I can't remember if we casted anyone from that season, the org season, to the LRG, but yeah, just like a concept that is just so easy, but like such an interesting one. And I think we, like, again, like, without spoiling, I like, we definitely saw it. Like, it was definitely like, these people are introverts, these people are extroverts, and that really came to fruition. You do have your outsiders who are like naturally a little bit more extroverted and like naturally a little bit more introverted, like on opposing sides. But I think even then, like, you know, even like those people, I think, are interesting characters in themselves. You need that.
And I understand that you did this scientifically. You actually made people take the Myers-Briggs test. You didn't let someone just self-identify as an introvert or extrovert, or you didn't make a judgment based on just how they came across in a video interview or what have you. You made them take the test, so you have a scientifically set group of introverts and extroverts. It's very professional.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm obsessed with personality types. Like, Myers-Briggs is my shit. Like, I am like, I will not date you because you're an INFP. I am like an avid ENFP. Like, that is me to
Is that a requirement before you go on a date with someone? You make them
no, but like, I joke that it is. I joke, and I always like ask people on like dates and stuff, which is really cringe, but you know, it's probably all a bit of bullshit, but still, someone that played before the season, he was constantly like, I'm an introvert, and I'm like, no, you're not. You're not an introvert. Well, I can dropped out for a second. Well,
yeah, it's happening. It's all good.
Yeah, so they applied. They're definitely not an introvert. Their personality, so yeah, their personality did not come up as introvert. And then after they played, they were like, "Oh, I'm telling you, I'm an introvert," and I'm like, "You're not." And like, the cast and crew have seen the first episode, and that's enough to say that this person is definitely not an introvert. So I think it was based in science. So even if people want to identify themselves as the other, I don't know why extrovert would want to identify as introverts. Extroverts are the best, but this person's definitely an extrovert, and so I think it was an important little thing that made people do it.
I did one of these tests for work at one point. I was going to see if I could find it, but I don't know if I can. The sort of misunderstanding that often comes from the introvert extrovert, while we talk a bit more about this next season, is generally around a misunderstanding that people think that being extroverted means you're it's about being out there and wild, and being introverted means you're quiet, when it's actually more about how you recharge. And,
correct.
And my wife and I are the greatest example of this. She's not a person that likes to go out a lot and go to parties and do wild stuff. She prefers to be with close friends and family, but she's actually probably more of an extrovert because she likes to recharge by being with those close friends and family. She doesn't really like being alone. Whereas I'm obviously such a big personality, but my recharge method, I have a big tank and I can go out and have a wild time with people for a whole 24 hours and be fine. But I recharge individually. So it's that intricate element of what makes up a person is quite interesting.
I'm constantly telling my friends this, like, it's about how you recharge. And whilst, yes, you might recharge around people naturally, and still like be outgoing, it is just about that energy.
It's fascinating. I'm really excited to see that. Sorry, you're breaking up slightly. You there?
10 seconds. Sorry.
He's out. All right. Well, while he goes and does something, I don't know what it was. He broke up there. We'll be running up the coverage. Let me just announce again. Tomorrow night, double coverage, ORCA Pod, Canberra Survivor versus the World Draft. Myself, Jules, Danny will be on live and drafting the contestants. And after my success in picking Sam as the winner of Syndey Survivor, I'm very excited to redouble my success and win again in this draft. With 3 and a cast of 16, thinking about how we might do it, I think we might just draft 4 each, and then we will give 4 people to the listeners, to the commenters, to the followers. Those 4 will be the people's people's champions that you all can root for in the chat or otherwise. So we will just do those, and then you can talk about the other 4. But we will talk about all the contestants no matter what. Maybe I don't know. We might do it differently. But we'll be talking about all the contestants. We'll be getting this draft done. I'm very much looking forward to that. He's still not back, so I'm just going to talk into the void. Equally, what will be occurring, we'll be doing weekly coverage. Now, Canberra players are very lucky. They get their own official podcast that will be podcasting, I understand, on Mondays. And then I and the ORCA crew will be podcasting on Wednesdays, hopefully getting interviews. They get double interviews, the double coverage. And, of course, as we used to make jokes about in Canberra too, we are the unofficial podcast. So we are not afraid to comment on how sexy Dan's suits are or other things that we want to comment on, because we are off-brand. So you can always tune in for us for the full off-brand, unedited, unaffected coverage of Canberra, which will be commencing from tomorrow. I'm very excited after 12 months of rewatching seasons I'd watched before and talking about them. Not that I didn't enjoy this, and not that I haven't enjoyed it thoroughly. I'll bring Eli back for a second before we can sign off. I've got to talk about when number 1 will be announced. Well, it's not going to be announced for any time soon, because there's 3 to go. Those 3 in no particular order are Melbourne Playing with Fire, Canberra Survivor 2, what was it called? Oh, The Ultimate Sacrifice, and Backyard Survivor 4 Redemption. And I'm not going to announce which is the winner, which is the bronze or the silver or the gold, until we do the coverage of of them, and that could be in a while because we're going to start this Canberra coverage that's going to go for like 3 months, and then I feel we're going to get a tidal wave of seasons coming out in the community, which is very exciting. I know that Backyard 5 is very close to being released, and then I don't think Brisbane's super close because I know like it's a labor of love for Sam. He likes to take his time. When do you think we might be looking at Sydney 2, Eli?
Yeah. So I spoke to the guys that are editing it a couple of days ago, and they reckon like maybe February next year. So soonish, not overly soon, but definitely 2025, which is exciting. Obviously taking a bit more time because it's better production, 2-day game.
Yeah. Do try to release it, please, when we're not covering another season. Just follow each other.
No, yeah. I absolutely. And then I think whilst I've taken a big break from it all this year, just I think season 3 we're going to start planning next month and hopefully film that end of Feb. So watch this space. Actually going to release the theme with casting, which is an interesting thing, but it's just to get the best cast and like actually give people the opportunity to know like what we're looking for. So stay tuned for that. It's not the most creative theme, but definitely a fun one. And so that'll come out probably in a couple of weeks. Start chucking the applications up, and we're going to start getting cracking on that, which is exciting because I've had such a long break from it that I think a lot of people have been like, when are we going to start planning, blah blah blah, and it's like maybe I should just let people take it on. But I just think just trying to give everyone a little bit of time between seasons, help let the season 2 guys finish editing, and then
I think we're going to have that. That's very exciting. Everyone look out for applications if you're keen to play Sydney 3. And you're absolutely right. It's because you're going to have Canberra, then Backyard, then potentially you, then Melbourne 4, and then probably then Sam's will roll in. So like I think we might get all 5 starting now, and it might not be until this time next year I'm finally revealing what came 3rd, 2nd, and 1st.
Honestly, like it probably does look like that, eh? I know, like you say, I think Sam's will probably be like a little bit of a longer slog, but as someone who helped with that season, like really good production quality, so I assume they'll take their time, and that's a good thing. And then obviously our production quality stepped up a notch for season 2 as well, which makes the whole process a little bit longer. Obviously, still not perfect. Lots of learnings, but I think we'll obviously. I'll probably sit here when maybe in a year's time and talk about those learnings from season 2, whilst I've got learnings from season 3, and I think you just keep growing. But it's fun, and it'll be interesting to see like how long some of these go. I know some people are sort of looking to close theirs out soon, which is sad. But I mean, I guess it's all a journey. I've always even from after filming the first one, I've gone, well, how many do I want to do this? Obviously want to do it again. I have sort of an idea in mind. We all want to do that All-Stars season, and I think that is the interesting thing is like what comes next. Obviously ALRG is kind of kicking off their unfinished business, which is awesome. A lot of people are excited for that. And who might step up next? Who knows? It might be all done by AI in 10 years. So
yes. Who knows? And you're right. It's a funny one with these new entrants to the community, like yourself, like Sam's Brisbane, and the ALRG coming out. While I understand, I don't know this for the truth, but I believe that Backyard, they filmed 5, which we're going to see soon. They filmed another season after that, and I think that might be it. I think Canberra has one that's out. We're about to see. They've got another one they filmed, and they might do 1 or 2 more, and then they plan on finishing. And I'm not exactly sure about Melbourne, but I think it is a case. It's like you can't do this forever. It takes up so much time, so much work.
That's right. I think just
tips.
having something to be proud of. And I think Backyard's gotten to the stage where it's just so good production. Like everything is just really clean that
Yeah.
I think it, and like, you know, I'm sure the guys just have a lot going on in their life. Like even for me, like I feel like I've been on this journey for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's only been a couple of years. Like
Yeah.
realistically, we're just starting. We've only filmed 2 out of, you know, 5, 6, maybe 7 that I want to do, you know, right?
Yeah.
And that just seems crazy to me because that's like so far away. But
Yeah.
I think also just taking this approach where it's like slowing down, like this year, I've just given myself some time to breathe, take some time away from it all. Because these things can be really stressful. And, you know, you make friends from it. People clash. That just happens naturally. I've seen in all the LRGs. And that's also like another thing. And, you know, just getting that mental health headspace as well was super important for me. Like this year, and I do hope that like the other LRGs, and I know that some do, some might not, do have that time between seasons where they just take a break from it all. Because it's been super important for me this year. Like just a lot of learnings and knowledge, and just taking a break from it all has been super good. Focusing on other things that I've wanted to do for the longest time. So I think whilst it's a great hobby, it is so time consuming. And you don't want to, you know, as good as Survivor is, there's a lot of things out there that we all need to do. We got to work. We got to, you know, find love or be in love, and there's all those kind of things. People have other hobbies. I love music, sport, etc. And just finding that balance, I think, is super important as well. And I think, when it has eventually run its course, I think I'll know. But at the same time, having such a long break has just made me really more excited to kind of keep moving on, seeing where we can take it. And I don't know if we'll ever be the best that has ever been there, but that's not the goal. The goal is just to have fun and meet new people, create the community, which is already like built up so much, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well said. So, look, thank you again for joining me, Eli. I think it was a great interview. Really good to get your thoughts on everything that was Syndey Survivor 1 and your plans for the future. As I said, when Eli mysteriously disappeared, tomorrow night we start our camera coverage. I'm very excited to be getting into a new season after covering all these old ones. Please join us or watch it again later. We will regroup with the countdown at some point in the distant future. But, you know, the top 3 are all quite recent seasons, so I don't think it matters if I take some time to go and do them. And when we get a gap, we will go there. Thank you, everyone who joined live in the chat and watched live. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your night to watch us. And also, obviously, everyone that watches it after the fact, whether it's on a podcast or the video later. We really appreciate your support at the ORCA Pod and for Syndey Survivor. Thank you again, Eli, for joining me. And thank you to everyone that's been a part of our Syndey Survivor coverage. Jules and Danny, of course, helping me with the recap. Sam joining me for the deep dive winners interview. Kristie joining me for a special interview, which was wonderful. And the tea party hosted by Annabelle with the fabulous group of Ethan, Joseph, Leah, and Michelle. Thank you, all of you, for taking the time to join us in our coverage. We will see you tomorrow to commence our coverage of Canberra versus the World. I cannot wait.
Let's go.